mine is words of appreciation, closely followed by acts of service, which again is why I give out free content, because it nourishes me. One's physical affection, one is quality time, and then the final one is like physical act of giving a gift. So those are the 5 love languages. And I think most people I've come across give and receive love in the same way. So as much as they like to. So for me, I like to give words of appreciation and receive it back. They're the same ones. But the reason I got more interested in it was from being a leader and finding that when it came to employee opinion polls, there was always lots of them in the corporate world. The 2 main areas that people fell down, or the organisation tended to score not so well on, one was communication and the other one was on recognition. Excuse me. And a lot of the employees would complain that they didn't feel recognised. So you would have the employees here, and then you would have a lot of the managers and the leaders on this side saying, well, we have award ceremonies and we give out bottles of wine and we do all of this sort of stuff. So I don't understand what else we can do. And they would throw more money at the problem. Whereas I was always very interested in understanding, my whole approach to leadership is understanding what makes each person tick. So actually, if you had a team of 15 people, throwing money at that wouldn't necessarily mean that all 15 people felt recognised. I personally didn't feel recognised by being given an award and standing on stage. That was like the worst thing in the world for me. That's somebody who's quite an introvert and doesn't like lots of people. Standing on stage in front of 1,000 people accepting an award is just like my worst nightmare. And likewise, there would be people that did love that. That was the way that they loved to be recognised. But a lot of people like me, looking for words of recognition, just a handwritten note or an email saying thank you, or something as simple as seeing somebody in the canteen and just saying, great job yesterday, thank you, I couldn't have done that meeting without you. That is recognition. And when you understand what makes people tick, it feels like hard work to start with, but it can bring so many more rewards when you know that certain person in your team likes to be rewarded in a certain way. It just takes a moment to send an email, or you know then that the budget that you have means that the person next to them might want a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates because they like gift giving. In the business setting, I'm not sure there was much space for physical affection. I don't think that would have gone down particularly well. But it could have just been a face-to-face interaction. It might have just been human connection. So it may be that person really appreciated you sitting down with them. They may be similarly closely linked to quality time, and they wanted to just be. It meant something to them for every week to have half an hour just for a catch up or a walk around the block. Is what we used to do. So it just was really important to understand how that impacted everybody, because if you treated everybody in the same way, you would likely appease 2 people and make them feel rewarded, but then really piss off the other 13 people. And when you start to create a culture that recognizes that, you stop with people feeling like, well, they got a bottle of wine and I didn't get a bottle of wine, or they got some chocolates, or they got a walk around the block. As you start to treat people how they want to be treated, nobody sits around complaining and moaning. So it keeps the culture the way that you would want it to be. It's harmonious, it feels very inclusive, and it's much more cohesive and collaborative, rather than feeling quite, there are times in the corporate world where it can feel a bit backstabby. And I think from the management point of view, I used to have managers who would say, well, there's no point rewarding that person because then the person next to them will just get pissed off that they've not been rewarded, so let's just not reward anyone. So it's just the way, it feels like the way I approach things is like very backwards to how it was in the corporate world, which is why I left, because it didn't make any sense. And for me, I can see how easy it is, how much somebody just wants to be seen and heard and recognized. That's all they want as a human being. And when you give them that, they excel. They massively outperform whatever anybody thinks. I used to get people who were on my team who were classed as like problem children, because they always caused a problem. People would leave them alone and not do anything, which made the problem worse. The person worse. They didn't perform. So I would do the opposite, and I would spend time with them. and they would always excel. They were always the people that ended up getting awards at the end of the year because they just weren't seen and heard and they weren't recognised. But that's all people want to do. I'm getting passionate about that because that's the essence of who I am and how I coach and how I lead and how I parent and how I am as a friend. I just want people to feel seen and heard.